Hello again and welcome to the ABA's Open Day, Moving Mountains with Austrian Innovation. My name is Michaela Laussegger. I'm the director for the Americas at ABA Invest in Austria. And my pleasure is to co-host today's panel on autonomous systems, autonomous driving here. And I would hand over the word to Clemens, who is helping me today with hosting this panel.
Yeah. Hello and good evening or good morning, wherever you're tuning in from the world. For those of you which have not participated in the previous session, where I was just gave an outline of the Austrian AI ecosystem, my name is Clemens Wasner. I'm one of the founders of the non-profit association AI Austria. And I think more importantly for the panel, which is taking place now, I spent more than 10 years in the automotive industry in East Asia. So many of the topics and also companies we are talking with together, I have first-hand experience in my previous life.
I would start the panel with a short introduction round. Each panelist is giving a short self-intro and provides an initial statement. Shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. Next with Martin Böhm from AustriaTech. Please go ahead with the intro.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Martin Böhm. I'm technical director at AustriaTech, which is a federal agency of the Austrian Ministry of Climate Change, which includes transport. At AustriaTech, we are aiming to support the transformation of the mobility system, which includes automation. Here, I have a specific role also on European scale. I'm Secretary General of the C-ROADS platform, aiming for the harmonized deployment of CITS services all across Europe. And of course, the deployment starts here in Austria.
Hanno, are you ready? Hanno Buchner from Magna Steyr is joining us online. Please go ahead.
Of course, I'm ready. Yeah. So hello, everybody, also from my side. Hanno Buchner, head of the strategy and business innovation team here at Magna Steyr, the complete vehicle group of Magna. Yeah, and maybe just some quick words on the background. Most of you might know Magna as one of the top automotive suppliers globally. And we here at the Complete Vehicle in Graz actually play a significant role in this corporate, I would say. And we are actually a one-stop shop partner for complete vehicle engineering and manufacturing. So actually, we really deliver full vehicles to our customers. And on top of that, we are a full service engineering partner on complete vehicles. Yeah, I think we have quite a good track record so far. We have produced 31 models with 10 OEMs and roughly 4 million vehicles. And also on the engineering side, I think we are quite strong. We have 4,000 engineers globally on 20 locations. So actually we are really close to our customers. Yeah, I'm happy to be part of today's discussion. I think not only the vehicle itself, it's the whole world of AI, but also the ecosystem of mobility is changing quite rapidly. It will look very different in a couple of years from now as we know it today. And I think we as Magna will play a significant role in this transformation as well. And happy to share some thoughts on that today.
Thank you so much. Wilfried Steiner from TTTech is also joining us online. Please go ahead, Wilfried.
Yes, so thank you very much for the kind invitation and organization of the panel. My name is Wilfried Steiner and I'm heading the TTTech Labs, which is the corporate research division of the TTTech Group. The TTTech Group has about 2,300 employees today and about half of that operating in the automotive field. My personal background is in computer science. I have a doctorate from TU Wien. I did a postdoc in SRI International in Menlo Park. I also have the habilitation at TU Wien, where we teach classes on dependable systems and systems architecture. The TTTech Group develops software, hardware, chips, and products and solutions and projects for safety critical and safety related markets, including the automotive, as I explained, but also the off-highway market, the aerospace market and space markets, but also new energy. We see artificial intelligence and in particular machine learning is an emerging technology that enables automated systems and autonomous systems, but we see there also a risk. So in our research and pre-development activities, we look into how to make autonomous systems truly safe. Thank you very much.
Cool, thanks. So we should probably jump into the discussion and start with the first round of questions. The automotive and transportation sector saw a tremendous shift within just a few years, from ICE to electric cars to autonomous driving, from new business models such as Uber to new ways of transportation, such as e-scooters. This is also reflected in the websites and services offered by the organization participating in our panel. Hanno, how did Magna, as the world's premier engineering company and supplier, react to the shift in the landscape?
So I think, of course, as I mentioned before, yeah, I think we have a quite good tradition on vehicle manufacturing. I think we have seen quite many trends come and go, also OEMs come and go. But what you mentioned already, like now in your introduction, is that this change we see like over the last year is really like a change in paradigm. I would say, yeah, it's not only the change from ICE to electric vehicles. It's not only the change towards more autonomous systems. I think the cars, they are actually being more and more software driven, a software driven part of everyday life. Yeah, and I think that's the main change behind it. And of course, it's everything which is associated with it. It's the mobility behavior and everything. So I think this change is really like just putting BEV vehicles on the market. Yeah, it's really much more. Yeah. And I think what we see here and what is really like different also like to the years before is the appearance of the new entrants. Yeah. So with these new entrants, and maybe to explain it in some words for those who are not so familiar with the term new entrants. So basically that's companies, often startups, which try to enter the automotive market or the mobility market. You can also put it on a broader space like for scooter, etc. Yeah. Maybe Rivian, Fisker, some of them are very prominent examples. And this trend, of course, accelerated quite strongly after 2012. I think it was back then when Tesla put the first car on the market. And I think what we really observe on that is, and how we react is that these new customers come with completely different aspirations and expectations. Yeah. So for them, it's really, they fully build on BEV since it's quite easy to industrialize, but they don't want to have, but the vehicle itself is just like one thing actually to realize their business model. Yeah? And the business model by itself, it's not the vehicle, it's everything they put in terms of software, data-driven business, etc., coming with the car. So actually for us, we have to deal with these customers. We are glad that we can work with these customers. And of course, we try our best, and I think we are in a very good position actually to help these customers to deliver their promise to the market. And yeah, and as one result of this, you might know that from media, we will produce the Fisker Ocean here in Graz. So this will be the first new entrant vehicle, and of course, yeah, as I mentioned before, this is new challenges to us, but also like new business opportunities.
Thank you, Hanno. Wilfried, how did TTTech experience these shifts? E-mobility, electrification in vehicles, new entrants. How did you adjust to the new situation?
Well, I think Hanno summarized it perfectly, and I could not find a better term like the software-defined car or the software-based car. I think that says it all. Software is the driving force that defines many of these products, many of the services that the new entrants companies target. I mean, for us, we have seen a main driver in the advanced driver assistance systems and the autonomous driving systems that drive this need and requirement for advanced software capabilities. And you have seen at the peak of the hype cycle in autonomous cars, especially that many new entrants appeared not only on the OEM side, meaning on the car manufacturing side, but also on the supplier side, in particular also on the software supplier side. For us, that's in principle a positive thing. As Hanno said, I mean, new entrants means for us also new customers. When it comes to the car manufacturers, we have been very active to accommodate the need. We have, for example, founded a startup, not a startup, but a joint venture with SAIC in China that's called Technomos, where we deliver boxes or ECUs, electronic control units, for the autonomous driving market there. Something that you also observed is that with the new entrants, the perception of safety in the automotive space is probably not as strong as you would find it in a typical OEM. And you just can imagine if you want to develop a level 4 car, which means this is a highly automated car where you trust the car to safely deliver you as a passenger between your start and your destination. And while that car is doing that, you may text, read, or you may even sleep. So you have to put a lot of trust into this car. And this trust needs to be justified by us who deliver services and products into these vehicles. So this was at the peak of the hype cycle. I think this topic was not so much understood. And this is now, I think, not so much the case anymore. I think we are what's called, I think, the slope of enlightenment in this area. And I think that helps us especially with our software solutions, because they have been designed from day one with safety in mind.
Cool. Thank you so much. I think Jost Bernasch is back online, so I'm going to try the next question with him.
Next try.
Thank you for trying again. How about the research perspective? In the mid-20s, it was about simulation and virtual homologation. Nowadays, it's fully fledged autonomous driving. What is your intake to that?
Yeah, I think we still have the task of simulation and, as it said, software-defined cars. The whole software hardware stack of the autonomous driving cars is still a very big topic. So I don't think that we really have the fully autonomous cars available. We have seen it's a much harder task than we expected 5 years ago. So the perception of the environment with all the sensors and interpreting the environment is really difficult. So we started about 6-7 years ago with the first level 3, level 4 research car and get a lot of experience. Then we also made a membership in the robo race. So the robo race is quite a very interesting endeavor, where the racing cars are driving anywhere in the world, but the team is sitting in Graz. So you can test your software, then you have to apply and upload your software to the racing car, which has a value of 1 million euros, so it should not crash. And then the software started, and you don't have any influence. Only the local guys can have an emergency stop. And then we make races against other research teams as well as the industrial teams. And the last time we have been the best research team of all research teams, so quite a good result. So this is a team from Virtual Vehicle with Graz University of Technology together. I think it was quite a success. And I think this also determines the development of software in the future. So you have to develop your software, test it, and then you have to upload it, and the car is driven and tested elsewhere. So this is a very interesting experience, how to process the development where you don't have the car really available. And right now we have different European projects. So we are part of about 10 European projects with different tasks in autonomous driving. And I think one especially interesting is the project Show, where we have a use case which will be implemented in Graz, where you come from the main station, take an autonomous electrical shuttle to the south of Graz, and this will be a use case which are now implemented and which will be available in the first quarter next year. So we will really have an autonomous shuttle together with some other public transportation. And this is, I think, a very interesting showcase.
Very interesting. Would love to hear more about that. But Clemens.
Yeah, I mean, the last three participants already mentioned the topic of autonomous driving. And yeah, I would say when you look from the angle of artificial intelligence, autonomous driving is like by far the most famous example. So everybody remembers from Google back before it was called Waymo, the self-driving car that looked like an egg. But what I always find interesting is in Europe, much of the discussion, to a larger extent to the United States, the discussion is always around the vehicle, who is making the vehicle, which AI is used in the vehicle, is it the new entrant, and so on. Whereas if I think back or witness the discussion in Asia, it's also like, how will this impact the infrastructure? How need the roads to be upgraded, or which type of legislation is necessary? Are we talking here about 5G or a new standard? And this is also why I would like to address my first question, because we have like one of the leading experts in Europe for this topic here. To Martin, what is the current state coming from an infrastructure perspective to enable either vehicle-to-vehicle communication or vehicle-to-infrastructure communication?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. Yes, the infrastructure, that's for sure when it comes to autonomous vehicles or automated driving, that's what I personally always prefer. It's a key element. And here, looking first to Austria, here we have a long history. We have already started with test fields in the past, preparing test fields, where we showed that this connectivity between the infrastructure and the vehicle is possible and it works. We made specifications out of standards and challenged these specifications also on European level within this so-called C-ROADS platform, where 18 European member states are working together on specifications. So in fact, Austrian specifications are nowadays used for the rollout of CITS all across Europe, which is reality in Europe. So we see also car manufacturers already using CITS services, so the connectivity between the infrastructure and the vehicle. Even that's for the moment just information. We see that really as a starting point for serving also automated functions in future. We are already dealing nowadays, based again on Austrian research results done in AlpLab, done in Digitrans. We are really working on the first automated CITS use cases, already specifying and standardizing them also on a European level. So the infrastructure is prepared. We have test fields and demonstration areas all across Europe, all across Austria, which we are really using also on a European level. When it comes now to communication technologies, we see a lot of discussions about communication technologies. Here, Europe took a slightly different way than the other parts of the world. In Europe, there was a decision that the starting point is with the communication technologies that are available. If that's now 11P, which is a wireless LAN technology, if that's 4G for the long range, we don't care as a starting point. But for sure, as soon as 5G will be there, and also in the short range, if it's LTV2X, CV2X, however you will call it, for sure, those communication technologies will be used as well. But for the moment, for the time being, and really to starting the whole field of automation, really this decision was on using what is existing today. And what we can see that, for example, in Austria, the Austrian motorway operator, the Austrian motorway, is already equipped nowadays with CITS on long stretches. We see it also in our neighboring countries. If we are looking to Czech Republic, if we are looking to France, a lot is existing already today based on work undertaken here in Austria.
Thank you very much. And if you might allow, I would also like to ask a follow-up question. Do you see that this will technically diverge between the three large regions, being the United States, Europe, and China? Because, yeah, maybe for explanation, I used to work for a long time in automotive, now I'm in the software side. In the software side, you typically say you have, let's say, one headquarter. Menlo Park was mentioned before, you know, Meta, Facebook, and so on. You basically scale in one location and then you make a global rollout. Whereas for automotive, especially like these regulation-driven fields, you always have local development hubs plus local testing areas. So do you foresee something similar happening in your space due to different technical specifications and regulations?
That's really a good question. The point what we have is that Europe needs to find a solution, as we have several countries. You mentioned China. China is also somehow isolated in Asia, what we see. Yeah? If you're going, and I have a lot of discussions with South Korea, with Japan, then they're always a little bit afraid also what's happening in China. So they are very much looking also on the approaches on other parts of the globe. In the US, we as well have a big discussion about technology. At the end, what we see is that they're going for two technologies in parallel at the moment and postponing the decision what technology to work upon in a later stage. The discussions, and there had been just 2 days ago a big workshop organized by the Japanese government, CIPADO's workshop, where all the 3 continents were present. We really saw that Europe is more or less the first continent having CITS in reality, so really making the first step, while we see in all the other parts of the world that the decision might be taken in 1, in 2, in 3 years. And this 1, 2, or 3 years, that's an announcement I already hear since 3 or 4 years. So in fact, it should be already there, but it's postponed and postponed because of technology discussion. But here in Europe, we are discussing about the use cases, about the benefit for the mobility system. And the benefits are safety, the benefits are efficiency. So if we want to act today, and if we want to bring benefit to the mobility system today, we also need to act now and not just to wait and to discuss technology. Start with what is there, and then, of course, improve in a second step, in a third step.
Thank you. This also rings a bell because when you mentioned the decisions on the US side, I remember there was always the expectation this would be one of Obama's last decision. And now we are 2 presidents further and we still don't have a decision. Yeah, thank you very much. So my next question I would address to the colleague from Virtual Vehicle. I hope the connection now works. It's going in the direction of technology readiness and a project. I remember it was, I think in 2017 was the time when together with the Austrian Drivers Association, with the ÖMTC, you had the roadshow all across Austria where you showed an autonomous vehicle, which was basically a joint project of several stakeholders. Mm-hmm. So could you tell us a little bit more about it? Who is participating and how this project evolved? Because what we think why this is very interesting, at the time when mostly vertically integrated companies were showing their autonomous vehicles, be it Tesla, be it Google, be it BMW, you had this open approach. So it would be interesting what came out of it and how it evolved.
Yes, sure. So we started about 2015 when we said we would like to build up a car with the whole software perception, sensors. You must implement the steer-by-wire and brake-by-wire, which is not easy in a car from today. So we have a cooperation with the company DataSpeed in the US, which have been able to implement a steer-by-wire and brake-by-wire system. So this was the first important step. Then there was a collaboration with our shareholder Infineon with an Aurix system, and also with NVIDIA. So we used at that time the very brand new NVIDIA hardware, and we integrated this all together. This has been integrated into the car, and we used different sensors from different partners, and it's a kind of open system that we can change the sensors, and also that we can integrate software functions from different partners. And right now we have a much more experience now with the car. And a big step last year was the cooperation with entrants. It's a quite new company from Palo Alto. Jan Becker has founded the company, and now they have the first kind of operating system for cars, which is certified by TÜV right now. And we implemented this Apex functionality in our software stack. So this is ROS based, but now we have the certified part, and also we developed certain modules for the Apex AI system. So it's now we have the next level of certified functions in the car, and it's still a very open system where we just integrated some very new sensors, where we had also experience from the robo race, and we are able to handle the full software stack right now, from all the perception, all layers down to the operating system and steering the hardware. So I think it's a very important platform for research, and we are preparing another vehicle which should be used then in different research projects in Austria using this technology.
Thank you very much. If I would have one follow-up question. Do you plan to stay, strictly speaking, in the passenger vehicle place with now 4 seats or 5 seats? Or do you also see down the road that you would go into small commercial vehicles, or let's say 2-seater or 1-seater electric cars?
Yeah, we just recently built up our so-called 01. It's a small vehicle. So the base was an electrified vehicle from a European project, which has been finished 3 years ago, where we developed all the electrical powertrain and the thermal management of this car. And we just adopted this car in the last year. So we had some time through the Corona times. We have some stuff which made all the changes to the car. And we are completely have been integrated a steer-by-wire system, a complete new hardware and software in the car. So it's a 2-seater, completely electrical, and it's the first car without any steering wheel. So we just have a very huge display where you can give different kind of information to the driver, to the co-driver. You can even see movies from Netflix or others. And we have only a small joystick for emergency cases that you can steer the car with joystick, but the car is completely without any steering wheel. We just have demonstrated this some weeks ago on a conference, and this is a basis as a research object, of course, concerning perception, the interaction of the people in the car. It's completely electrical. And this will also be the basis for a user car, not the traditional shuttle bus, but a larger electrical car for, let's say, 6 or 8 people, so that we can demonstrate a people mover completely on an electrical basis for different research projects. So this will be planned for next year. But we have just shown to transfer all the technology from the cars we have developed in the last 3-4 years to a completely new architecture developed in a European project, adopting a completely new interior and with full functionality for autonomous driving.
Thank you very much. So now comes block number 3.
As was mentioned before, mobility is among the busiest sectors when it comes to startup activity and new entrants. I would like to start with Hanno. How can Magna support startup activities and new entrants in manufacturing?
That's a good one. Yeah, as I mentioned before, I think we are like our key asset as a partner is that we can really support, or actually we do support new entrants, and of course other OEMs, but especially new entrants on the full journey from the very vision phase on engineering really down the full road towards vehicle production. Yeah. I think we are actually really like the enabler for them to bring a vehicle on the market, but I think we are also capable to enable them to make it in a very short time to market, because that's also mostly key for these players to be quicker than the others, or actually quicker than the market expect, or at least keep the promise that they give to the market. And also to give them some kind of flexibility when it comes to volume aspirations, etc. So I think competitiveness and efficiency have ever been like the drivers in the automotive industry, but they will be more than ever in future. And I think we really have some very proven history here at the Complete Vehicle Group of Magna is being flexible to that. Yeah, and I think we have shown that on a couple of cars with traditional OEM in history. Now the new entrants, they have expectation in terms of flexibility, which go really beyond this. But I think we are very well set on that. But nevertheless, I think, of course, we also have to do our homework on that. Yeah, we have to. I think there is quite some potential to improve operations in terms of reaction times in order to improve our reactions to interventions and improving our existing systems using like digitalizations. But of course, and I think COVID is also like a good example for that, efficiency improvement and delivering on time isn't just a matter of our own plant, it's also a matter of the whole supply chain. And I think we quite got some learnings recently on that, and what we also have to do to really make seamless supply chains, which have some resilience to disruptions. So working on competitiveness and efficiency doesn't stop at our plant, put it in that words.
Glad to hear that still a learning curve, and you also have challenges to get over the hurdle there. Next, I would like to ask Wilfried, your company TTTech is taking the definition of mobility and transportation to another level. Actually to space. Tell us more about the specifics of the sector, and please shed some light on the activities in and around Austria.
Sure, of course. I mean, space, and in particular human spaceflight, is very, very demanding. And so far, I mean, before the autonomous cars, it's probably still is the most demanding safety critical system that we build. So it's still fascinating. We can put human beings into machines and fly them to space. It seems still like science fiction, yeah. And if you follow the space race that the US billionaires are having right now ahead, I guess, and if you consider that this space race was targeting to only reach space limits, yeah, to call them astronauts, the passengers, then I guess you probably could imagine how much more demanding it is to actually put something in place, a machine in place, to bring people to the ISS, to the moon, or probably even to Mars. So that's still a highly demanding challenge. I mean, for us, it's a very attractive business, because over the last decades, we have been developing networks, which are backbone systems, backbone components in these machines, in these rockets, in these spacecrafts. And we were able to develop a system, a technology based on Ethernet. We call this TT-Ethernet, which is now actually standardized as an ESA standard, and it's baseline for many space projects. We also developed together with RUAG actually space components, and are baselined with these components as supplier to the NASA Lunar Gateway. There are a couple of modules, and we already baselined in 2 of them. And I think what we try to do, coming back to the automotive market, is to apply this knowledge that we gained on how to architect such systems, such that you can trustfully rely on them to bring you safe from a point A to a point B. We try to apply these learnings, and not only try, but we apply these learnings to the automotive sector. I think in terms of Austria and in Vienna in particular, it's fascinating to see how basic research that was done on the TU Wien since, I don't know, a couple of decades, probably 40, 50 decades by Professor Koppetz, translated in multiple steps towards technologies and products that we now see flying in space.
Glad to hear. Now that we have Jost online, I immediately have another question for him. Please, could you tell us about the Living Innovation Lab initiative of your organization?
Yeah, the Living Innovation Lab is one area in our COMET K2 Research Center. So the COMET is a funding from the FFG for 5 years or 4 years. And all the other areas are dealing with methodologies, applications, which mainly means that we implement some simulation technology, some software, and so on. And we decided to build up a Living Innovation Lab that the results, or the product or the pre-products from simulation or from software can be seen and used, and can also be used by SMEs. So we have a special program for SMEs that they, for a while, they can use this for free and have some support also for free, that the SMEs have the chance to get in touch with some new technologies and new results without paying anything for that, and to see how they might be used this technology in the future. And on the other side, we are implementing platforms like our autonomous driving demonstrators. So these are also part of the Living Innovation Lab, that you really can demonstrate and see the results from our research. Just recently, the Steyr, so the Steyr is an autonomous testing platform. So if you don't have a car already available to test and validate your sensors, for example, you can put this on the Steyr. It's a mobility testing platform, and we have been awarded at the Husker Prize some weeks ago. We made the second place, so this was very proud and very successful for the team. And this is also some part of the Living Innovation Lab. So to put it in short words, just to demonstrate results, to get access for companies, especially also for SMEs, to use our research results and to use this technology later on in their companies. This is the intention of the Living Innovation Lab.
Wow, impressive. Thank you. So maybe, I think we...
With regard to the time,
we are really good.
Yeah, and also because we want to take questions and answers later. Yeah, it's time for the closing statements. And here, I think we need your crystal balls, because I would say, I think it was in the mid of this decade that Herbert Diess, the Volkswagen CEO, said that he expects every automotive company to become a software company in this decade. Then you have lots of studies which project how much of, let's say, personal transportation will be handled via autonomous vehicles, either fully autonomous or with partially humans involved. So it would be interesting to get the angle from your respective field. And so, yeah, I would start with the gentleman to my left side, because he's physically present. So how do you think it will evolve in terms of systems, regulation? Are we faster than we expect? Will it take longer?
The question is what we expect. Yeah. I think as a starting point, I even would enhance this statement. Yeah, it's not only about the automotive sector. It's about the whole mobility system as a whole. I think also this became evident in all our discussions. It's not about a single car. It's about the vehicles. It's about vehicles, integrating them in the whole mobility system. And stating that means that also the digital transport infrastructure will need a lot of software, because at the end, each single vehicle needs to be embedded in the whole mobility ecosystem. And we must not forget that it needs to serve our citizens. And this is something what is really tricky. So technology is really evolving. Technology is becoming evident. Technology is being implemented. But at the end, it needs to serve a whole system. a whole system that's not ending at the borders of Austria, which is serving all our citizens all across Europe and ideally all across the globe. So this is time consuming. Even we are doing good success in our approaches. We're seeing now connected vehicles in a first step. We are seeing autonomous systems really isolated in vehicles. We call those maybe other systems. But in future, those things need to work together. It needs to be integrated. So that might take some time, also with the acceptance of all the citizens outside there. We must not forget at the end, our users need to accept what we are constructing, what we are building. And this is something what needs time. So maybe more time than we expect nowadays. And we must never forget also really to include our customers, our citizens, our experts also in our discussions to understand also their needs, their ratio, and to ensure their acceptance at the end on the solutions we provide.
Thank you very much. This reminds me of another Herbert Diess quote where he said, in order to gain acceptance, you need to reduce the accident rate not by factor 10, but by factor 100, because it's unthinkable that each day, let's say 10 people die on the German Autobahn. This is just not unthinkable. On day number 2, people would pull the plug. So this has to be much, 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 much lower. Thank you. Then, yeah, if I follow the layer model, coming from the infrastructure, of course, the next one would be to Mr. Steiner from TTTech. Where do you see the bus systems going? Also, perhaps with special regard to cybersecurity, which is becoming a much more prominent topic now for embedded systems.
Well, I mean, for years now, almost years now, almost a decade again, it's about Ethernet. There has been a standardization initiative going on inside the IEEE, who takes care about the Ethernet standard to beef that up with real-time and safety capabilities, such that you can use Ethernet for almost everything in the car. What we see from architectures, E&E architectures in the cars, that's still planned, but we also see other technologies that would complement Ethernet, for example, the PCI Express bus. But I think also coming back to the question of Volkswagen and whether it's realistic to become a software company, I think for them it's a logical move. And I think it's the right move. And if you follow the activities of CARIAD through their social media, for example, or if you have business relations with them, you really see that there's things going on. And I think for us, it's on one hand interesting how we can position our bus systems in the Volkswagen cooperation, but on the other hand, it's also about software platforms, as was discussed before. And the big question is how many of those software platforms will survive. I think CARIAD themselves, so the Volkswagen concern, is big enough to establish that, but there will be a lot of others that might not have the power or the volume to do their own platform. So this puts us as a software platform provider in a very interesting position.
Thank you. And maybe one brief follow-up, just to put this in layman's terms. How to which degree or at which magnitude is the data load in bus systems increasing in this decade? So what would be the forecast? Because I noticed from the computational side with chips, or let's say with AI models, and you had between 2012 and 2019 factor 300,000 between the compute that is necessary for object detection and so on.
It really depends on where you look in the car. I mean, the Ethernet buses clearly go beyond 1 gigabit. So there are already plans in some architectures that go to 10 or probably even more. If you look at PCI Express, then you can handle even more. So if you look inside a box or boxes that are closer to each other, then the data rates are even higher. And I'm sorry, I didn't answer the question on cybersecurity. I mean, that's a big issue as well, yeah. Of course, obviously. So when I was emphasizing safety of the cars, security is always implied, because there is no safety without security. So to protect the cars against attacks, malicious attacks that would originate outside the car and infrastructure, and would, as a consequence, attack the buses that we were just mentioning, the gigabit speed buses and beyond that. That's a critical design aspect. So safety architecture immediately needs to also consider a correct and a good security architecture.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Then next one in line, following our OCI layer model, is Jost from Virtual Vehicle. Yeah. Like your expectation for the next 10 years. What do you think in 10 years? We will ask your colleague.
Yeah, so I will follow up to what you said. So the companies or automotive is going to change to more software-oriented companies. I think this is really a must. What we have to do, and what we have seen. So we are in complex system simulation since more than 10 years. It's going slowly in the industry, but we see right now that the switch to use more the complex simulations with digital twins is coming more and more in the automotive industry, also in the rail industry. And what we see is that the real benefit of complex simulation will come right now, because with the digital twins, you have the interaction between the physical world and the simulation. So you always get data from the physical world to describe your digital twin. So this will come quite intensively. And what now is necessary, because more and more players have to work together in a complete transportation solution or mobility solution. So it's not only focused on the car itself. You also have to think about what are the business models for each player. So if a lot of players have to work together, there must be a business model for each of them. And we just see in the discussion with the industry and the planning for the next 10 years for their products, for their services, really to understand where will be their business model and how to predict the technology they have to use to fulfill their requirements to have these business models really in place. This will be much more difficult than today. You build your cars with a certain cost. You are selling your cars, and that's it. You make your EBIT. And in the future, it's getting much more complex with all the electrified cars, the energy providers, the infrastructure, communication from the infrastructure. You have much more players, and each will have or must have his or her business case. And this will be a very interesting task in the next years to come.
Thank you. Rising complexity, always very good from a research perspective. Yeah, and last but not least, we would also like to know how the world's largest automotive supplier see where the ball will roll.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think there were so many things said in the very right direction already, like as conclusion here. In the end, I think it's, and since I'm not a technician, I bring it now at the very end to a high level again. I think where it's really moving towards, it's that we have to think the whole world in terms of mobility solutions. Yeah, and I think it's the switch from BEV to ICE and going towards assisted driving system, that's rather the beginning than the end. Yeah, and it's just like the first step in transforming what we already have to a new level. But I think the end game will not be that new level. It will be really like a new ecosystem of mobility solutions. Yeah, and new modes of moving people actually. Yeah, so I think we are now in this transition phase, and that's also like where we like see our vision in there to say, okay, it's really like our goal is like really advancing the mobility for everyone and everybody, and that's mean really improving how the people move through the world in 5 or 10 or in 15 years. Yeah, and yeah, and that's actually, I think, the angle we have to take, and Jost, you said it also very correctly. I think we also have to think about how this connects with the business models, since they will look different. because the solutions look different. Yeah. So I think there is very much associated with that, but what we always have to keep in mind, and I think that's key, we have to focus on in the end what the user needs and what the user wants. And that's, I think, in this very complex discussion, I think that's the easy question we still have to keep in mind. Do we create the solutions the customers, the people in the cities and on the countryside really want to have as mobility solutions?
That's right. Don't forget the customers who pay all the stuff.
Exactly.
Thank you, coming from a customer. Yeah, this wraps up the fourth blocks for the Q&A session.
See, we have some questions over there.
Exactly.
What do we have here? How easy is it finding talent in Austria? Somebody from our panelists want to answer that? I can offer a solution.
I think it's getting more and more difficult. So we see after Corona, though the economy is going up, so everyone is looking for people, and especially they are looking for people with software experience, software technology, software engineers. So these are lacking today. And if I look at the university, at the number of students this year and last year, so the numbers are going down. And so we have to prepare what will be in 3-4 years, where we get the good educated people. And I think we really have to address this issue.
Maybe I can also add something on that, since I think with our 13,000 people globally, I think we have a good perspective on it, but especially coming to Austria and coming to Graz, which is one of our major locations. I think, Jost, I'm with you, it's getting not easier, yeah, but I think we are still in a very good spot. I think we have quite good educations around here. So like all the institutions of university and everything. So this ecosystem of university and research facilities is very strong here. I think we still are on a good position in terms of employer competitiveness. Yeah, so competitiveness on the market, it's not too strong compared to other areas in Europe. Yeah, if you compare it to some parts of southern Germany, for example, yeah, you have right. Much stronger competition on the employer side. Mm-hmm. So I think it's not easy, but still here in Austria, I think we are somehow on a lucky spot. And of course, we have a very, very beautiful area around here. So this also makes it to some extent attractive for people also to move here and to, yeah, actually to build some new living also like here in Austria. So I think it's difficult, but I think we have like good prerequisites to tackle that questions here.
That's right. We have very good ingredients for the people. But we have to work for that.
Exactly.
Glad to hear that the setup is quite nice in Austria. And what we can do here from the Austrian Business Agency side, we have a new department called Work in Austria that is supporting on the one side Austrian corporates finding talent, but also talent moving or coming to Austria or interested to work in Austria, with all kind of residence, work permit question, etc. So please feel free if you have any questions like that, you know, individually, that's what we are here for. We are glad to help any talent who wants to move to Austria. And the second question I have here, is there a shared data pool within the automated mobility sector in Austria? Maybe you not answer that, Martin?
I can make a starting point.
Okay.
A shared data pool, it's a big question of what is data about. On European level, what we currently see is that there is the requirement for all the single member states, including Austria, to set up a mobility data space called National Access Point that is existing as well in Austria. For the automotive sector and automated mobility, there are currently discussions also again on European level, how to solve the problem and how to really ensure access to data, also to research data, without defining exactly what data is meant by that. But especially from all our test environments all across Europe, it makes sense to exchange at least the learnings and the data which are forming the basis for the learnings, which is currently hardly possible. So there are thoughts on that, but there is no final solution on that, and also not here in Austria, at least to my knowledge.
There is no final solution. I fully agree to that. What perhaps is interesting, that because we heard the word digital twins a couple of times today, coming from the research side, you have projects going on, for example, at this enliteAI. This is a privately financed research institution in Vienna, but it is co-financed from the German car makers, and they work very closely together with the public sector. So I think I would not be surprised that if in the research sector you first have this type of data sharing in a, let's say, in a small scale, but not on a country scale, of course.
Yeah, as stated, there are thoughts also within the Austrian ministry. There are thoughts on how to deal with those things in future. And it's not only about automated or autonomous vehicles, it's really in the whole research field. Yeah, how can we make access to data so that we're not starting to build up our research again from zero, from nothing, but really to build upon learnings, even if the learnings are coming from other partners, from other projects. There are thoughts on that, but no final solution yet, but hopefully in 1 to 2 years. Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? I think that's it from the audience. Time-wise, we are perfect. Closing and conclusion. Let's do a final round.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was quite obvious to see, and this was also mentioned a couple of times, that 3 or 4 years ago, you would have, in such a panel, you would have talked about electric vehicles. You would probably have thought, oh, autonomous driving is something far in the future. But now it's shifting away from this pure automotive view and towards mobility, and this includes everything that comes along with it. This comes infrastructure, sensors, bus systems, multiple stakeholders coming in, even different types of mobility, like e-scooters, for example. There's zero chance we would have talked about e-scooters 10 years ago. So this is it feels like a Cambrian explosion that is going on in the mobility space. And I'm also pretty sure if you do such a panel every 2 years, you will have very different participants. And this, I think, makes it very exciting also from an R&D perspective, of course.
Yeah, my learning, it was really interesting to listen to the panelists here, actually, was the landscape of the players in the automotive sector, mobility sector is completely changing, and what the Austrian ecosystem is quite open to new entrants, new startups, also coming from abroad. That's what we are here for, to help and support those international companies looking, putting their toes into the Austrian automotive waters. That's what we're here for, and would love to support. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have this highly interesting panel, to host this panel, and thank you for the audience, wherever you are sitting. Good day, good evening, and enjoy the rest of your day.